Another anime-themed gacha game has descended upon us. This time it's Code Geass themed. That's right, this review will be for the recently released Code Geass, Elusive the Rebellion Lost Stories mobile game. The game where you can play Arknights, but with Code Geass characters. How exciting. To begin with, we're dealing with a tower defense gacha game with an almost identical visual style to Arknights, with less cool designs in my opinion, which again is purely my own taste, but I think Code Geass has a visual style that is its own, but it's not the most appealing to me in the broad scope of anime or games in general. As I said, the tower defense mechanics for Code Geass are almost identical to Arknights and most of the tower defense gacha games. You have a spot you're trying to prevent the enemies from getting to. You do this by placing units of varying types in the way to destroy the enemy units before they reach the end. The same as Arknights, it's the same as Bloons Tower Defense. You've played one, you get the gist. In Code Geass's case, though, we're using Nightmare Frames, or KMFs as the game calls them. On the player's end, we have our own KMFs, some generic, unless you pull an important character who has their own, like Suzaku, who has Lancelot. In the roughly 5 hours of gameplay I did for this review, I started to see some of the challenge of the levels, but I think most of it will come with later story content that probably just doesn't exist in the game yet. You've got the land enemies, the flying enemies, the occasional boss, the usual for this type of tower defense game. But as someone who has played Arknights, I couldn't help but feel that this was doing much of nothing that Arknights didn't already do. It just had a Code Geass paint job over it. The gameplay progression bears a resemblance to Arknights, but it has a few distinct traits, which I say is distinct to Arknights, but not really to gacha games as a whole. Most games I've played have had at least one of the things I'm about to talk about. They're the farming nodes to get the various items needed to upgrade your characters or send them to new heights, a staple of every gacha game. All the types are available every single day, but you only get one rotating double drop rate one, which is cool. I appreciate that that exists. Alongside have the double drop tickets, which can double or quadruple the drops depending on which node they're used on. Which if these were there for artifact farming in Honkai Star Rail or Genshin Impact, I would cry. But the caveat of this comes with you only get 3 runs of each of them per day, regardless of if it's double or not double rate. It seems arbitrary and kind of frustrating if you're trying to only level one specific character of a specific type. Like if I have 3 executioner type characters, I can only make so much progress on a given day because I have run out of attempts to run that level. I could see this making some semblance of sense for the double drop rates to just make them feel more special, but for every single node it feels a bit pointless. Once you get to the actual gameplay, in terms of auto battling, Lost Stories does not have a true full auto where I can walk away and the level will play itself, which for me personally is a big deal breaker for Lost Stories. But they do have the somewhat alternative of the skip tickets that lets you just skip the level entirely and reap the rewards. I appreciate the existence of this, but it being a finite resource doesn't offset those two. Again, to bring back the Arknights comparison, I wish the game had something like that auto battle where once you've beaten the level with only your units, the game remembers how you did that, and then you can just let the game play itself while you go do literally anything else. Which for me is huge because I love just being able to put on a level to farm and walk away and do whatever else I want to do without having to use my brain for a daily farming level. And I think they want to cut this with the skip tickets, but it's a finite resource that I'm assuming I will run out of. And then after that point, I have to manually run every level, which is too much time for me personally. But in exchange for all of this, we got a very detailed camera mode where I don't really know why they did this, but it's cool, I guess. They have the basic stuff like the time control where you can go really slow or you can go up to double speed. But then you have a pause button and you can change the camera angles. I don't hate this inclusion. I think it's interesting aesthetically, but I'm just like, why? A tower defense game in my eyes is not something that really needs like multiple camera angles, but go off, I guess. In terms of the gameplay on a mobile device, I was playing on my iPhone 12 as I play most gacha games, which on high settings, which is what it defaults to when you install the game, got fairly hot, or at least enough to trigger the notification on my phone that was like, you need to chill, buddy, it's a little too hot. If you bump it down to medium, it's fine. It was getting a little hot, but that also could have just been a byproduct of that I was recording the footage for this video. A plus for Lost Stories, though, is that if you're playing on silent mode with a video and picture-in-picture, it won't pause every 5 seconds like some other gacha games do, which is sick, and I love that because I love auto-farming and then having a YouTube video on so I don't have to pay attention. However, if you are playing on an Apple device, like with basically every app, that gray bar will constantly be present, which eventually your brain just kind of tunes out, but when you're recording, it's actually much more of a headache to get rid of than I thought. But overall, the gameplay loop and progression are fine. In my time playing, I don't think I reached the true depths of it, but it seems like that'll be a ways away for me. This is just an initial impressions. I'm not going to spend weeks into this game. I already have like 4 gacha games that I am fully devoted to. I cannot spare any more time for the 5th. As for the story and characters, if you like Code Geass, you will like these characters. They are the same. If not, you should probably just play a different game. There's like 20 million different anime-themed gacha games at this point. You can probably find one with characters you like. The team organization mechanics add various important characters alongside the one-off characters because somebody needs to be a 1-star character and it can't be Lelouch. The rarities, as far as I know, go from 1 to 4 stars, with 3 and 4 being reserved for the cool characters with their own KMFs or lore importance. While the smaller soldiers or less overtly strong ones are the 1 and 2 stars. Makes sense for most gacha games related to anime, except for one character. The Emperor of Britannia is a 2-star character, which makes 0 sense, besides the fact that in terms of selling him, he is not an attractive anime guy or girl, so he just won't sell. But if you're trying to keep it lore accurate, he should not be a 2-star character. He should not be barely stronger than Nina. But anyways, that's a nitpick. It ultimately doesn't really matter. It's just a weird thing I saw and went, okay, I guess. But in terms of the actual story, you get Lelouch at home, the player character who is just Lelouch but less cool looking. They're fine. You can understand, you can sympathize with them for the fact that they are a good person mostly. But their motivation is ultimately, like Lelouch, revenge on Britannia for killing his family. If you've watched the anime so far, the strokes aren't that different besides Lelouch not being 0 as much yet, but I'm sure we'll get there. At present, it seems like the player character is meant to be more of Lelouch, complete with the whole double life as a student at Ashford. I haven't seen all the anime stuff post the original series, so maybe this makes more sense with that included, but I couldn't tell you. All I know is the characters, and I go, wow, it's Lelouch, or the girl who got brainwashed or trauma, but she isn't in this game. She is herself, so that's cool, I guess. And last but not least, we reach the moment we've all been waiting for, the gacha system. It's pretty simple. You get your daily free single pull on a regular banner, and every 3,000 of the currency gets you a 10 pull and 1 3-star character alongside it. It frames it as chess pieces, which makes sense given Lelouch's whole chess thing, and it's fine. Pulling repeat characters lets you the material to let them reach higher levels quicker, and instead of doing all the character introductions at the end, it does them right after you pull a new character, which doesn't really make any difference. It's just something different to what I'm used to. The 4-star rate is 3%, which is about what I expected. Some characters also come with their own KMFs because they have one. So at least you get it for free, which is cool, I guess. Once you hit 200 scout points or 20 10 pulls and you get a free copy of the focus unit, it says it's unlimited, so I'm assuming you can do that as much as you want. But if you don't reach that 200 by the end of the banner, you get a bunch of skip tickets. I don't know how many because this game just came out, but I guess that's a cool thing to let you grind for the characters that you didn't get and the ones you still have to suffer with. I appreciate the compensation, but it does feel a little icky to me, where it's like, sorry you didn't get the guy you want. You get to suffer with the guys you already have still. But that's at least something. And I respect them for doing something at least. There's a pretty expansive section if you want to buy more stuff to roll. I didn't buy any because I have no desire to, and I also like to be free to play on most newer games because I don't like gambling. I already spent too much in several other gacha games, and I'm not doing that again. But if you so desire to get more, you have like every tier in between. There's like 10 of them. But on the whole, it's a pretty standard gacha system. Not much to report on. There's not much you can do at this point to innovate it. It's just how kind are you to your player base. And the skip tickets, if you don't get to the point, is cool enough. It is some semblance of compensation, which I like. Now, before I give my final score and overall opinions on the game as a whole, just some little things I like and dislike. I do like on the home screen, you can manually select the KMFs that are kind of lurking behind you. It is purely aesthetic, but it rules to be able to put ones you actually want there instead of just a bunch of default ones. But on the flip side, I didn't like the ads I kept getting to buy the battle pass or the limited bundle. I'm okay if you like relegate them in the corner, but I don't want to have to click out of them every time. And lastly, one that is purely because I don't like to read, I wish the story levels had the summary if I choose to skip them, because I got very bored reading the chapters. But beyond that, I don't really have any more minor nitpicks. Those are just things for me personally. And now you reach my overall review of Code Geass Lucia the Rebellion Lost Stories. As a standalone gacha game, if you remove the fact that it is a Code Geass related one, I wouldn't really recommend it because Arknights exists and just does everything better. But if you like Code Geass enough to be invested to just be playing with Lelouch and characters you know, I would say go for it. Give it a shot. You've got more investment in it than I do and an easier hook in than the average gacha player who is just there because a gacha game came out. For me personally though, I like Code Geass a reasonable amount, but not enough to hook me into playing a gacha game just because it has Code Geass characters. And some of it also is, I'm not the biggest tower defense gacha game guy. I understand the appeal and I appreciate that it exists for the people that like it, but it's just kind of not for me. It takes a little too long to farm and the auto things are usually not what I want. So overall, if you want a rating, I'm not going to give you a number. I would say I wouldn't recommend this to the average gacha player, but with most of them that are purely based on a specific anime property, I would say check it out if you like Code Geass. Maybe you'll get addicted to it, but I don't think I will.